My next guest just picked up a huge win this past weekend over Giga Chikadze. It is Calvin Kattar back here on the program. Calvin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, James. How you doing, bro?
I am doing awesome. Not as good as you, though, man. What a performance that was. Was that the most satisfying win of your career on Saturday night?
It was up there. It was nice after a long layoff, year off. But I gotta say, man, I was excited about this interview. I had a whole long list of them, and I downloaded Skype for you. Bought out my new mug too. Specifically for this interview.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
right.
got to take a look at all the picks, James. From the fights last week. Anything you want to talk about, James? Now's the time. Address the elephant in the room.
Let's do it. I picked the wrong guy. I thought Chikadze would win, and you proved me wrong, man. So did you see all that stuff leading up to the fight, or was it was just something you were tunnel vision going into it?
No, I'm tunnel vision, man. But my buddies never let me hear the end of it. They're all like, "Man, this guy's talking this guy's talking that. Everyone's talking shit." And like, I get it. And honestly, I'm not too focused on all the bullshit. Like, I try not to because I'm already, like I say, I'm already on 100 every time I step in there. Like, I wanna win bad. Not much anybody can say to make me want to win more. It's not like there's not so much. What's the difference from motivation? I'm already very, very motivated every time I step in there, but it did add a little satisfaction after knowing that how much everyone's counting me out, and I definitely made a lot of fans in Vegas. They love a good underdog plus 200 out there. I didn't think that there was many fight fans out there, but I think they all recognized me just because I made them a bunch of money. I don't think they were fans prior or knew me, but they love a plus 200 dog out there in Vegas.
How are the Georgian fans leading up to this? Because even I saw it like going in. They're like, "Oh, Chikadze's going to finish it in the first round." And I was like, "Have you watched Calvin Kattar fight? Like, this is a pretty, durable guy. A guy that went 5 rounds with Max Holloway. Like, did you get any of that leading into it?"
I mean, I didn't get anything from them because, like I said, I don't follow all that shit too much. But I was hearing it from. I'm in a group. We have a UFC group chat with my buddies and all that, and they're always talking, kibitzing, and especially like fight week, they all kind of say where they are and things, and just sending smack, updating the chat. So I try to stay out of it as the fight gets closer. But no, they sent me some other stuff recently saying about him talking. He's gonna get me out of there round one, Giga kick, and I'm gonna dance for don't dance for 25 minutes or something like that. I mean, if anything, I was leading the dance on Saturday. So, I was happy to come away with a win. And I felt like, him focusing on the champ and not me was a little disrespectful. Not so much the fans disrespecting me with not getting behind me, having that recency bias over the Max Holloway win. I get that. But for my opponent to kind of focus on the next guy when he has a fight with me lined up, I definitely wanted to make him pay for it.
Yeah, and you certainly did. One thing I haven't seen a lot of people ask you about, no one really asked about your secret weapon this camp, which was Ross Levine. How much of an asset was he leading into the fight with his karate and kickboxing background?
Yeah, that kick was just as fast, just an extra 40 pounds behind
That's
it.
right. Yeah, he's a middleweight. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man, solid, and he dialed back, but he was getting it there fast. He didn't put all the power behind it, but he was getting it there with some speed, and it doesn't get much trickier than Ross Levine.
And Tyson's a master when it comes to game plans and studying tape and doing all that stuff. Was there anything, though, in the fight that you weren't expecting that maybe he did that was maybe a little unusual?
No, he did everything kind of that we expected, except throughout the fight, his wrestling defense was actually pretty decent. Maybe I could have set it up better. Don't get me wrong. My setups for my takedowns. I kind of jumped on a timely one in the first, and I think that made all the difference in taking the gas out of him and a little steam and pepper off the shots early. And then from there, I just stayed on the offense and on the gas for the rest of the fight and had him on his back foot, pressuring and smothering the kicks. And from there, the range was getting a little closer, and I realized that I was doing more damage with my elbows than my hands. So I just started throwing elbows, looking for the finish, and almost got it in the fifth.
How did you celebrate after that big win? I know there's some bumps and bruises, but did you get to enjoy yourself after the fight?
The biggest thing was just that first fight that my family and friends were able to go to in a while. They had to fork up some decent cash for the damn tickets, but they were all ecstatic with the experience. Obviously, a little bias off the win, probably, but as far as the fan expo and be able to go in, meet the ring girls, carry the belt, walk in the octagon, and be that close to the fights, it was an intimate vibe, and they all really loved the experience. So the VIP experience, they were all pumped. But I was excited to just have them for the first time in a couple of years to my fights. It's been a while, and they all had a hotel, I think, at Encore, myself included, and we just went in the lobby bar, and I had 2 cutlets, chicken parms from Sinatra's waiting for me, as if one wasn't enough when I got out, and just hanging with friends and family. And then I believe later in the night, I think we bumped into Chuck Liddell, strangely enough, me, Rob, and Chuck. Chuck was passing through, and yeah, you never know who you're gonna bump into in Vegas, man. It was wild.
That's great. How did you get through last year? You know, you came off that loss, and I know you didn't want to, you don't want to rush in there after a fight like that. Like, what for you got you through that year? Because I know it's not like other sports where you lose a game and you can go back, in football, you can go play the next week. Like, you had to wait an entire year. How did you get through that?
Yeah, all you could do is really absorb all those emotions and feelings that you're going through. This way, you don't have to revisit what you went through, in order to feel that again. Just kind of taking all that in and saving it for the eventual return, using it as motivation. And it was tough. My new fight, as Rob put it, your new fight is now just being patient,
Mm-hmm.
and it's tough. But it was an opportunity to work on that and just prepare more for, like I said, an eventual return. We knew we were coming back, and we wanted to come back strong. So we gave ourselves a little bit of a layoff, or we were thinking like 6 months, but the way the timing worked out, we didn't get in there obviously till a year later. Same with Max, man. He came out pretty unscathed in that last one with me, and he didn't fight, I think, Yaya till like December, right, or something like that.
Yeah, it was late in the year. Yeah,
long layoff even for a guy with W. Sometimes it's just the timing, the way it works out. But I never got worse with more time to prepare, and we laid a brick every day from the Holloway fight to this one.
And I know, speaking of Tyson, they actually wanted you to fight earlier. It's just the timing didn't work out with the opponent and all that stuff. So that's why they moved it to this year. But I think they were targeting, I think, the fall or the winter for one of your fights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, these guys all like to say, like, you turn it down fights. It's even with like the champ right now. It's funny, like he was saying they're calling him out just like he's nervous. I mean, they're gonna call you nervous even when you're the champ, even when you're gonna fight Max Holloway for the 3rd time, even after you fought. It's like they're always going to say whatever they want, man. But I'm excited to just be at this point in my career after 15 years in the game, man. Have these big moments, these big fights in front of me. Win, lose, or draw, I'm showing up every time, and it's just a great checkpoint to be in and have these opportunities in front of us. I know guys that have been in the game just as long and deserve these shots, but for one way or another, the way it worked out, it didn't pan out. But I'm just grateful to be in the mix with these guys and chasing those lights on the other side of wins, man. That's it.
You mentioned Volkanovski there. He's going to be fighting the Korean Zombie. I know Ariel made a pretty good case for you getting that title shot in case something happens. Is being a backup for that fight? Is that something that's been discussed with your team yet? Because I think if something does happen there, you'd be the guy to sort of fill in.
I mean, yeah, it'd be a plus if I got in, and if not, a backup. Shit, I'll take somebody to go cut some weight, I guess. Even though, I mean, I'm usually, give me another reason to kind of walk around being ready to go, getting paid for it. That's usually what I'm doing anyway, is just staying in the gym. As far as Giga just kind of running his mouth, the only positive to all of that was like, yeah, go ahead, jock for that title all you want. Tell everybody you're next in line, 7-0 in the UFC, the last 7 fights. Like, solid, definitely. I get the argument, but you got to take out a couple more big names. But the more he's jockeying for that position, I knew a win over him puts me with all that hype that he was trying to build and all that momentum. So now I'm in a position where, coming off that big win, yeah, if they need me, I'm ready to go.
Well, I was going to say, in that fight's in April, I think it didn't seem like you got too much damage in that fight. So, I mean, April seems realistic if you were to be the backup for that fight.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I'll be all for that. Like I said, get paid to stay in shape. That's a win for me.
Seems like if that doesn't happen, there's 2 options for you here. Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez. Is that kind of what you're thinking right now as far as the next opponent? Because they're highly ranked and they're 2 pretty big names in the division.
I think those can make sense. Definitely, as far as I want to fight up next, ideally. So those are 2 guys that are in the mix, that are above me, that are coming off, I think, losses that need a rebound. So could make sense, but we'll see how things play out, man. I try not to forecast too much because this shit always goes whichever way it wants.
Especially in your division. Yeah, it's
right. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
So to go up and down with all the emotions in it all, I let Tyson. It's nice to have him involved and just make the sound decisions while I just focus on the meat and potatoes every day. I stay in the mud and putting the work for training and just staying ready to go.
If you were to fight Ortega, we know he's got a great ground game. His striking has improved tremendously, like we saw in the Zombie fight. How do you look at that fight from a style perspective?
Put together a game plan and take them all out, man. Whoever it is, I don't like top five, like we're saying. Like, who do you want next? They all saying I'm like wasting my call out, this and that. I don't really have the call out. I don't really care about all that either. I prefer to just go prove it. You know, they all present problems in the top five. It's interchangeable. You know, one guy kicks, one guy's good on the ground. They're both specialists in the field. So how to deal with that and navigate. You're going to have issues that they're going to present. You just got to figure it out. So for me, I don't care really who it is. I'm just, you know, hopefully it's fighting up, like you said.
Yeah, and you know, you sort of let Tyson deal with the opponent specifically, right? You sort of leave it in his hands, and then you sort of game plan for the fighter, right? You're not really thinking about style matchups or anything, right? Is that kind of my understanding?
Kind of picking fights back locally in the regional scene. You know what I mean? At that point, you try to get tricky to get your debut, get your shot in the UFC. You know, you don't want to take fights that don't make sense. And really, back when we did it, we just took everybody that was a top contender. We just did all the tough fights locally back then. But that being said, it's like when I got to the UFC, I stopped caring who's next. I just fight everybody who's next, whoever the UFC lines me up with. You know, that's it. Is
there a preference in opponent if you could fight one or the other, Ortega or Rodriguez, if you're given the opportunity?
I don't care. I think my mindset before all this was kind of take all the contenders out on my way to becoming champ. So this way, you know, if I can do that and become champ, they got no one to feed me next. And so I don't care who I fight next. Really, they both present problems. Like I said, I don't have a dog in fight. I don't care who it is.
Okay, that doesn't matter. And ideally, when would you like to get back in there if you had the choice?
I mean, I guess I'm ready, man. I'm just training. I got Combat Zone February 24th at Encore Casino in Boston, so I'm really excited about that. Definitely going to be a lot of work from now till then, just getting the show off. But February, 2 months after February is that April time frame, so. From there forward probably sounds like it makes sense, you know. But yeah, like you said, I'm healthy, man. I feel great. That's the biggest bonus I got from last weekend, and just hitting the gym early now, ready to go back on track and waiting for the next opportunity.
That definitely makes sense. We mentioned Volkanovski there. Do you see him beating the Korean Zombie when they fight? If you had to pick that fight, if I gave you $500, you're a betting guy. Who would take that fight?
Yeah, I mean, I would take the champ, but then again, it's all styles, it's all matchups. Who lands big shots? Things happen in there, man. Small gloves, shit happens all the time. But I would lean towards the champ, but I've been wrong before, you know.
And you mentioned Giga sort of being a little overconfident in the fight. And then obviously there was the comments after the fight saying he'd beat you 9 out of 10 times. I know you talked a bit about this with Ariel yesterday, but did that surprise you though, just because you guys talked after the fight, he was really respectful. And then here he is going on Facebook saying that he beats you 9 out of 10 times. Was that a bit surprising to you?
Yeah, I feel like there's two different Gigas. There's one in person and one in the interviews. And like I said, I try not to take the interview ones too personal when I hear them talk a certain way in person, but when you do enough of that shit, I'm going to change the way I address you in person if you do enough of the interviews, you know, a certain way. So it is what it is, man. When you talk like that, like the champ said, you open your door to all of it, you know. So when it doesn't work out, get ready for that comment section.
For sure. And just like you can't take fight picks too seriously either, right? So there we go.
Like that.
Yeah, there we go. Just sort of last thing on Giga as well. Do you think that's him or that's more his manager? You know, his manager kind of gets on Twitter and sort of uses his fighters' accounts and stuff. Do you think that's kind of rubbed off on him a little bit? Because we're seeing that with some of his fighters where they kind of can be like that a little bit.
I mean, you see it happen a lot. It's tough when it's not getting rewarded for it, you know, because if you win the fight, when you talk some shit, you do get rewarded for it. So it's a fine line. It's a fine balance. But when you sell out, you sell out. You know, you open yourself up to it. It is what it is. I prefer to just, you know, keep it a little bit, you know, less being said, more being shown. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's his account. So no matter who's doing it, it's still coming out that way, you know. So I have control over my accounts. No one's talking some shit on there unless it's going through me. So you know, whatever the case, man, I don't know. Like I said, man, I don't even like talking about usually the fights even after a win. The last one was off the loss. It was probably a long time with that 1 year off, and then the way that one ended, and then being patient, and then going into this one and having them overlook me, it was only added motivation. There was a lot of chips on the table for this one, and like I said, I'm just happy to get my hand raised and pull through with a solid W performance, and now be in a position where my trajectory's fighting up, a guy higher ranked, hopefully, and just more opportunities, more big moment opportunities.
Dan Hooker's expressed interest in coming down to featherweight. How exciting would he be for your division?
Yeah, I mean, definitely mix it up with some of the guys. See how he does at featherweight. You know, coming down from 55. You know, you see, you got it's early to tell, man. You got to see how he does. But I know it wasn't.
He used to fight at 45. He actually fought Yair, if you remember, but he moved up a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure why he's moving down now. I don't know. You know, yeah, maybe Volkanovski's teammate wants to move up. I don't know, but it seems interesting that Hooker wants to move down now at this stage in his career.
Yeah, did him and Barboza fight at 55, right?
Yeah, they did fight at 55. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. Who knows?
Something I haven't asked you before. I saw in your Wikipedia bio that you trained with Nick and Nate Diaz when you were 19 years old. Tell me about that experience.
Man, it was wild. I remember I went out there. It was like 2 weeks before my fight at the Elite XC. My first loss kind of sucked, but yeah, I went out there 2 weeks. But that's usually when you kind of dial back a little bit more. So nowadays, like I'm realizing, but back then I was going out there, and it was a hell week for me, man. I was getting like 3-4 bloody noses a day, just training with animals. I was sleeping on the floor at Cesar Gracie's house. Pretty cool experience, man. We would wake up, go train early, and then, you know, finish late all day, just training. I was out there by myself, and I was able to train with Nick, Nate, linked up with those guys the first time at the gym at like 12:30 in the morning, and they were kind of already wrapping up. At least Nate was throwing on his jeans, about to leave, and he's like, "Hey, you got this kid here. You want to get some work on?" He's like, "Sure." Goes back at 12:30 at night. You know, most of these guys are, "No, I'm good, man. I just trained all day. I'm going home." He's like, "Sure." He goes in, changes up. Back at the time, he submitted me a bunch of times real quick, and he's like, "All right, I'll let these other guys train with me." Like at that time, it was just starting out, but those guys are real deal, man. I was able to see the work ethic. I trained with them. We went to a gym in Oakland, and who was there but Andre Ward ripping on the heavy bag. I'm with Nick and Nate Diaz in the gym. It was like the mecca of the fight game, man. It was really crazy to see, and just seeing how hard they work. When I came back, I had to adjust and make those changes in my game.
And you always bring a good interview here, Calvin. Thank you so much for the time, man. It's awesome. Check out Combat Zone. What was the date? February 28th, you said? Or what's the date of that event?
It's a Thursday event at the Encore Casino in Everett.
Okay, that's awesome. We got to check that out. And where can people get a hold of you? And if you got any sponsors, I'll give you the last word.
I got a lot of sponsors, but right now, which is great, you can follow me at Calvin Kattar on Instagram, or really at New England Cartel MMA on Instagram for all of us. And yeah, just shout out to my sponsors: Habrick, First Form, Premier Mortgage. Just, man, see, this is what happens. You start saying some and you forget the rest.
It's all on your social media, though, right? You always post your sponsors there, right?
Check them all out, man. Follow me; you won't miss them, man. I got some great people behind the team, and but follow New England Cartel for anything cartel related and updated.